The commoner format forces players to do the best they can with limited options. But after Bright Lights dropped, not really a challenge for the Mech class, right? It's almost too many options. So where to start? Well, let's just straight upgrade my existing reliable, already good Dash HyperBoost build. A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando. Hey there, Commoner fans! We know you're passionate about your format, and it's time to show it. Flesh and Blood Commoner videos historically underperform, not just in views, but in engagement. Show your content creators that Commoner matters, both by liking and leaving a comment on this and other Commoner videos to encourage engagement. See you on the tables, and go Commando. Hey there, my Flesh and Blood friends. Welcome back to Dice Commando and Go Again, a fabulous cast for another Commoner video and Commoner peeps. Shout out, that's right. We're talking one of the OGs actually in this, which is Dash. She's always kind of been right there on the edge. I'd say like a 1.1 hero, I think. I know a lot of people use like tier 1, tier 2, tier 1.5 is kind of like that in between. I think she's tier 1.1. She's very, very, very good. I think the only reason that she's not in the tier 1 is because she's a little susceptible to fatigue in the wrong matchups. But I don't think very many people can argue with the fact that Dash is one of the easier heroes to pick up and run, which is a good thing in the Commoner format, because that's what we're using as an entry format for a lot of us. Give somebody a Dash boost deck, they can kind of figure out how to flip cards and make sure it hits and go again. It's awesome. It's good stuff. All right, so what we're doing tonight, or what I want to do tonight, is take the existing deck that we've talked about a lot. Now, I am talking Dash HyperBoost specifically, which is relying on the Hyperdriver, so she'll start with the Hyperdriver in play. We do have another one in deck. In the last, what was it? It was Dynasty. We got Crankshaft, and we got Jumpstart, and that was kind of like, hey, Hyperdriver is actually going to be a thing again. And they are. But not necessarily with this hero, but they still work really well when you get them in play, okay? Now, I do want to reference the old deck that we had where we didn't really have much of a choice. We had to run a fair amount of blues, right? More blues than we would ideally want to run because, again, you don't control what you're flipping. But you have to have the blues to make sure that you have enough to play your Overblasts, your Payloads, Overloops, whatever it may be. But now we have too many options of zeros and 1/4s. So we can lower our cost curve, but then we run into that issue of, well, what do we run? Right? So shut up, Andrew. Give me the deck. So here we go, kids. Here we go. All right. So I have actually trimmed the loadout down a little because, again, with this new sideboarding life that we live in, stuff in your loadout actually hurts you in the wrong one. Okay. So we have the pistol. I've trimmed the other weapons down. I used to run Teleshar in here. We're going with pistol. Okay, pistol baby. Even if you go all zeros, you still then have one floating from your Hyperdriver. Load and shoot for another 2, right? A lot of times that 2 is going to stick and work really well for you. Achilles Accelerator, no duh. Goliath Gauntlet, but Andrew, you said we weren't running 2s anymore. Well, we're still running Payload. Okay, we're actually running another couple of them, but they're going to be in your sideboard for poppers. Goliath Gauntlet is intended for Payload to swing for 8, okay? And they know it's coming because you're going to have to pop it first, right? Let's be very clear about that. You can pop it first, do your thing, play your Payload. They know it's coming, but there's not a lot they can do about it, so it doesn't matter, okay? Ironrot Helm are 2 Null Runes, and then Vest of the First Fist. Guess what? Free Payload. Sounds pretty good. All right, now going into the bulk of this deck, okay, so I have one Big Bertha. Now, that Big Bertha is in your sideboard, okay, for your poppers. Okay, Boom Grenade, we have 2 of those also in your sideboard. What, Andrew? Why? Well, because fatigue's a thing. You don't really want this if you think they're going to be like blocking you out. Okay, because again, we have a lot of 0/3s in here. We have a lot of not 0/3s too, but you track. Okay, we don't have to drop a Boom Grenade down, crank it, and do the whole thing. Okay, because we're not Dash IO, we don't have the instance, we don't have the thing. Okay, use your Boom Grenade in a matchup like a Phi or something like that, where you don't think they're going to be blocking very much. If you sit down versus a Bravo or an Icelander or something like that, Boom Grenade stays in your sideboard. Right? Full suite of Crankshaft. That card is freaking phenomenal in the Commoner format when you're starting with Hyperdriver in play. Spoiler alert, we're starting with Hyperdriver in play. Shocker, that's why it's the name of the deck, right? Right, that I am choosing Expedite. Okay, so this is where we get into the thing. So Expedite's a 0/3. I think it fits with this. Fender Bender fits really, really, really well. Again, remember a lot of the equipment in this format blocks for 1. This card just doesn't get blocked with equipment. Okay, now, again, no on hit, but that's kind of the mech thing. So it is what it is. I do have 2 hyperdrivers. I'll be honest, there's a very solid argument for starting only with 1 hyperdriver and just saying YOLO. The reason I have 2 in here is because I went ahead and chose some of the cards that if they, hit, you can put 1 in play. Or if they chuck it away, they get +1. So it made sense to have at least 1 piece of equipment in the deck, right? Otherwise, like, why are you playing them? They're not giving you anything. I skewed away from the 0-3s and the 1-4s that did like the opt-in stuff because we're going full mech, so it doesn't really add you value. I mean, it can't add you value, so you may as well go for the super pie-in-the-sky conditional value because functionally they're the same card, except for that little plus 2% condition. I mean, it tracks, right? Right, so we have Jumpstart, full suite of that one. Now, the reason I have a full suite of Jumpstart is because it's functionally the same card as Zipper Hit. Now, one could actually make the argument in this case that Blue Jumpstart and Blue Zipper Hit aren't actually needed. I would actually grant that that's okay. The thing is, I still, even though others disagree with me, I still think Icelander is really strong in this format. And I think she's actually underrepresented in this format right now. And you need blues. You absolutely need blues. Kano's not really a thing, but I think Icelander is. So I think leaning into blues is a good thing. And again, if you sit down and it's not the right thing, you can always lean heavily into your boom grenades or whatever else you want to do. You have flex options there now with the sideboards. Okay. So we have Med-X, then we have Payload. I think we already talked quite a bit about Payload. This is a phenomenal chain ender. Pairing a boom grenade somehow with a payload is kind of pie in the sky a little bit, but hey, you could always put either one of them in your arsenal and see what happens. We have Throttle. Throttle's a great card because it's a popper. That is also a main sideboard. Full suite of 0-60, shocker there. We do have 0-50. How am I supposed to build a deck that doesn't have 0-50 in it? I don't care if it doesn't have text. It's awesome, right? It's just an awesome shout out. Then we have Underloop because, hey, if it hits, you get a card back. So why the heck not? You will notice a very specific lack of Combustible Courier. Combustible Courier is a very good use in this deck, or it had been previously, because on hit, right, forces blocks and all that. That said, I think that 95% of the time when they sit down, or when your opponent sits down against you, they're going to be trying to fatigue you. And Combustible Courier is pretty easy to handle because they know, your average player is going to know that they have to at some point absorb a Combustible Courier. And it's just a meta call for me in this deck that Combustible Courier is not going to hit. And if Combustible Courier doesn't hit, it's bad value, right? So I don't think, because we have the cards that also devalue equipment like Fender Bender, in my opinion, Combustible Courier is not worth the 2 resources now that we have a lot better options. I think it was in the past. I played it in the past. I don't think it's valid here. But again, if that's something that you want to do, you could swap it in instead. You could do a 1 of on the Big Bertha, whatever you want. Okay. So anyway, that's the list. Again, the links below. Many of you probably already clicked and gone away, who I'm not talking to at this point. So why am I even saying that? Fair enough. But I think this deck's pretty solid. I have not run it in person yet, obviously, because of, you can see behind me, and the bad lighting. I'm certainly traveling. But this is something that I was surprised was not ran at the last Commoner Crawl. I think it's definitely going to be run at the next Commoner Crawl as that picks up steam. And I mean, that's basically it. This Dash is really, really good. And I think, and actually I encourage, look at the cards in this. They're not hard to get. None of them are. I highly encourage all of you to build one of these, keep it in your box or on your shelf or whatever. And when you go to an event or something like that, bust it out and let a new player try it, because it's really good. It's very intuitive to play. They'll probably miss some triggers and stuff, but hopefully the person on the other side of the table will help them with that, right? You've got your crankshafts, your jumpstarts, and all that. This deck's super easy to play, and it's really good. Okay, so anyway, that's my take. Highly encourage you to get some reps with this, and like I said, build it. Good deck, and go Commando.